My name is Bailey Hudson. I'm 29 years old. 3 months ago, my mother stood up at my baby shower, in front of 40 people, including my coworkers, my in-laws, and my childhood pastor, and told everyone I got pregnant on purpose to trap my husband. She grabbed the microphone during a baby name guessing game, cleared her throat like she was accepting an award, and said, and I quote, "I just hope Marcus made this choice on his own and not because he felt obligated." 40 people, cupcakes on the table, a banner that read, "Welcome baby Eleanor," and my mother, 3 mimosas deep, telling a room full of guests that my pregnancy was a scheme. I thought inviting her was giving her one last chance. Turns out, it was giving her one last stage. But here's what my mom didn't know. My husband had been saving every single text she sent him for 4 months. And when she finished her little speech, he stood up. He didn't yell. He just read. Before I tell you what happened, if you're someone who's been through something like this with your family, please hit like and subscribe. But only if this story genuinely resonates with you. Drop your location and local time in the comments. I love knowing where you're listening from. Now let me take you back to 18 months ago, to a gender reveal party that cost $15,000 and wasn't mine. The night I told my family I was pregnant, my mother was serving pot roast. Marcus and I had driven 45 minutes from our house to her place, the same split-level ranch in Coopersville where I grew up, where the carpet still smelled like the dog we had in 2006. My sister Megan was there with her husband Travis, who'd been stationed at Ramstein Air Base in Germany and was back for 2 weeks before Megan joined him overseas. Dinner was quiet. Donna, that's my mother, controlled the table the way she always did. Who sat where? Which serving dish went to Megan first? Small things that feel invisible until you've spent 29 years counting them. I waited until dessert, set down my fork, said it plainly. Marcus and I are expecting. 3 seconds of silence. I counted them. Megan smiled, but it was the kind of smile that checks a room before committing. Travis nodded. Gerald, my father, looked up from his plate with something I couldn't name. Surprise, maybe, or something older. Then Donna turned to Gerald. She didn't look at me. She looked at him, the way you look at someone when you're about to confirm something you've both been thinking. Well, she said, I hope this one doesn't turn out like her. Nobody corrected her. Megan studied her water glass. Gerald went back to his pot roast. Travis suddenly needed more bread. Under the table, Marcus took my hand. His grip was steady, warm. And when I looked at him, I noticed something. He wasn't surprised. His jaw was tight, but his eyes were calm, like he'd already heard worse. I didn't know why. Not yet. I'm not being mean, Donna added, pouring herself more wine. I'm being realistic. Some people aren't cut out for this. I looked at her. I didn't ask for your blessing. I came to share news. She smiled, the kind of smile that has teeth but no warmth. We left before coffee. 18 months before that dinner, Donna threw Megan a gender reveal party that could have funded a semester of community college. $15,000, 200 guests, half of whom Megan barely knew, event planner, 3-tier cake, professional photographer, confetti cannons timed to the second. The backyard of Donna's house had been transformed into something out of a magazine spread. White tents, floral arches, a chalkboard sign that read, Megan's Miracle, in hand-lettered gold script. I sat at the last table, the one near the portable restrooms. Nobody introduced me to anyone. When a woman in a floral dress leaned over and asked, "And who are you?" I said, "I'm the other daughter." She laughed, thinking I was joking. Donna gave a 10-minute speech. She stood under that floral arch, champagne in hand, and talked about Megan like she was announcing a Nobel Prize winner. My Megan, my pride, the daughter every mother dreams of. She cried, real tears. The crowd clapped. She never mentioned my name. At one point during the reception, Donna walked Marcus around the party like a show pony, introduced him to her friends. "This is Bailey's husband. Isn't he handsome? I don't know how she got so lucky." She laughed. They laughed. Marcus didn't. I helped clean up after everyone left. Alone. Megan had gone inside to rest. Donna was saying goodbye to the photographer. I folded tablecloths and stacked chairs while the confetti from Megan's miracle stuck to the bottom of my shoes. I didn't cry at that party. I cried in the car on the way home. Marcus drove and didn't say a word. He just held my hand on the gear shift. That silence told me more than any speech Donna ever gave. Here's the thing people don't understand about growing up as the unfavored child. It doesn't make you weak. It makes you resourceful. I put myself through college, graduated with a degree in healthcare administration from state, got a job at Coopersville Regional Medical Center. Not glamorous, but I handled scheduling for 42 staff members, ran insurance coordination, and kept the patient intake system from collapsing every flu season. My boss, Karen, once told me I was the only person in the building who could argue with an insurance company and win without raising my voice. Marcus worked as an IT manager for a logistics company, one county over. Good salary, steady. We met through a mutual friend at a barbecue 3 years ago. He asked me about my job. Most people's eyes glaze over when you say healthcare admin. Marcus asked follow-up questions. We dated for 3 years, married 2 years ago. Small wedding, 35 guests, backyard ceremony at Marcus's parents' house. Donna arrived 40 minutes late, wearing white. Marcus and I bought a small ranch house 45 minutes from Coopersville, far enough to breathe. Close enough that I couldn't pretend the distance was an accident. I'd already pulled back from Donna 2 years before the pregnancy. Calls went from weekly to bi-weekly. I stopped sharing details, no updates about work, no vacation photos, nothing she could pick apart. She got the headlines, never the full story. One evening, about a month after that dinner, Marcus mentioned it casually while making pasta. "Your mom texted me again today." I stirred the sauce. "Just ignore her, she does that." "Yeah," he said. "I know." I should have asked what she wrote. I should have taken his phone and read every word. But I didn't. And that's the one thing I'd go back and change. Marcus told me about the first text a week after I announced the pregnancy. He was sitting on the edge of our bed, phone in hand, face unreadable. "Your mother sent me something," he said. He turned the screen toward me. The message read, "Marcus, I just worry about Bailey. She's not stable enough for a baby. You know that, right?" I stared at it for 10 seconds. Then I exhaled. "That's just mom being mom," I said. "I'll handle it." Marcus nodded slowly. "Okay, but I'm not deleting it." I didn't ask why. I wish I had. Over the next 4 months, Donna sent Marcus 47 messages. He never responded to a single one. He read them, screenshotted them, and filed them in a folder on his phone. He told me later he named the folder Insurance. The texts escalated. Week 3. "You're a good man, Marcus. You could have anyone. I just don't want you stuck." Month 2. "My ex-husband was trapped too. Don't let her do the same to you." Month 3. "Bailey has always been needy. She'll drain you. Get out while you can." And the one that made Marcus's hands shake when he finally read it aloud to me. "She's just like her father. Weak." She compared me to Gerald, the man she cheated on, the man she drove away, the man she spent a decade blaming for everything, including me. Marcus brought it up once more, about 2 months in. We were in the kitchen. He set his phone on the counter. "If she ever says this stuff in front of other people," he said quietly, "I'm not going to sit there." I thought he was being dramatic. "She wouldn't," I said. Marcus picked up his phone, looked at me with something between patience and pity. "She already has." The baby shower was Joanne's idea. Joanne Price, my best friend since freshman orientation, had been planning it for weeks. She booked Maple Grove Community Hall, set the guest list at 40, and told me the only thing I needed to do was show up and look pregnant. Then Aunt Ruth called. Ruth Whitfield Coleman was Donna's older sister. 60 years old, retired school principal, the kind of woman who could silence a room with a look. She was the only person in my family who'd ever said, "Your mother is difficult," out loud. "Bailey, she said on the phone. Donna called me crying. She says she wasn't invited to the shower. She wasn't. Silence. Then, she's still your mother, Bailey. Let her prove it. I told Ruth the truth. I told her about the dinner, about the texts. Not the details, just that they existed. Ruth listened. Then she said, "Give her one chance. I'll sit next to her. I'll keep her in line. If she steps out of bounds, I'll handle it myself." I thought about it for 2 days. Then I called Donna. "You're invited," I said, "but this is my event. If you can't be supportive, don't come." Her voice went syrup sweet. "Of course, sweetheart. I wouldn't miss it for the world." I hung up and immediately called Joanne. "She's coming," I said. Joanne was quiet for 3 seconds. "Fine, but I'm putting her table away from the microphone." I laughed. Joanne didn't. I didn't invite Donna because I forgave her. I invited her because I wanted to know, once and for all, if she could sit in a room full of people and just be happy for me. Just once. That question got answered, just not the way I hoped. Megan FaceTimed me from Germany 3 days before the shower. She looked tired. The base housing behind her was beige and bare, boxes still stacked against the wall. Travis had shipped out 2 months ahead of her to set things up. "Mom told me you almost didn't invite her," Megan said. "No hello. No how's the baby." "She told you that?" "She cried, Bailey. She said you're shutting her out." I leaned back against the kitchen counter. 7 months pregnant and already exhausted by this conversation. "Megan, did she tell you what she said at dinner? I hope this one doesn't turn out like her. Did she mention that part?" Pause. "She didn't mean it like that." "Then how did she mean it?" Megan's eyes shifted. That familiar sideways glance, the one she'd been doing since we were kids, the one that meant she didn't have an answer but wasn't ready to admit it. "I know Mom isn't perfect," Megan said, "but she's trying." "She spent $15,000 on your gender reveal and told me she hopes my baby doesn't turn out like me." "That's not trying, Megan. That's choosing." Silence. Megan picked at the edge of a moving box. "I'll try to fly back for the shower," she said, voice uncertain. "Only if you want to, not because Mom told you to." The call drifted after that. She asked about the nursery. I gave short answers. We hung up the way we always did, politely, carefully, with everything important left unsaid. I set the phone down and Marcus looked up from his laptop. "How'd it go?" She knew about the texts. Mom told her she was just worried about me. Marcus closed his laptop. "And Megan believed that?" "Megan always believes her." I love my sister, but loving someone doesn't mean they're on your side. Maple Grove Community Hall sat at the end of Oak Street, between the Methodist Church and a used bookstore that was always closed. It held 80, but Joanne set it up for 40. Round tables with yellow tablecloths, a cupcake tower instead of a cake, a chalkboard where guests could suggest baby names, and a mimosa bar in the corner because, as Joanne put it, no one survives your family sober. The morning of, Joanne and I arrived at 8. She hung the banner, "Welcome Baby Eleanor," while I arranged gift bags. Marcus carried in folding chairs, set up the speaker system, and tested the wireless microphone Joanne had rented for the games. "You don't need a mic for 20 people playing bingo," I told her. "It's for ambiance," she said. "And volume control. If I'm hosting right." Guest list, final count, 40. 8 co-workers from the hospital, including Karen, my department head. 5 college friends. 6 from Marcus's side, including his mother Linda. From my side, Donna, Aunt Ruth, 2 cousins, and, if he showed, Gerald. Megan confirmed she'd land that morning. Around 9:30, Marcus checked his phone for the 3rd time. I watched him plug it into a portable charger. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Yeah, just making sure the battery's full." I didn't think anything of it. He was always the prepared one. Extra phone charger, backup car key, a granola bar in every jacket pocket. I chalked it up to that. The hall looked perfect by 10. Cupcakes stacked, name board ready, mimosas chilling. Joanne stood back, hands on hips, surveying her work. "Today is going to be fine," she said. "Today is going to be fine," I repeated. I was wrong. The doorbell rang at our house at 9:15. I was still in my robe, struggling with the zipper on my navy maternity dress, the one Marcus said made me look like a senator, when I heard the front door open. Gerald stood on the porch, my father, 58 years old, thinner than the last time I'd seen him, wearing a button-down shirt that looked freshly ironed and eyes that looked like they hadn't slept. "I wasn't sure if I should come," he said. 6 months. That's how long it had been since I'd seen him in person. He called occasionally, short, awkward conversations that always ended with, "Well, take care of yourself." But showing up was different. Showing up meant Donna couldn't control what he said. "You're my dad," I said. "Of course you should come." He stepped inside and hugged me. Not a quick hug. Not the sideways, one-arm thing he'd been doing for years. A real hug. Long enough that I felt his chest rise and fall twice. When he pulled back, his eyes were wet. "I just want you to know," he said. "I'm proud of you. I should have said it more." Marcus came down the stairs, saw Gerald, and extended his hand. "Glad you're here, sir." Gerald shook it, held it a beat longer than necessary, nodded once. On the drive to the hall, I sat in the back seat while Marcus drove and Gerald rode shotgun. Quiet. Comfortable almost. Then something nudged at me. "Do you think Dad knows about Mom's texts?" I asked Marcus, keeping my voice low, though Gerald's hearing wasn't what it used to be. Marcus glanced at me in the rearview mirror. "I think your dad knows a lot of things he never talks about." Gerald stared out the passenger window, said nothing, but his jaw tightened, just slightly, and I noticed. So that's the setup. My mom had been texting my husband behind my back for 4 months, telling him to leave me. My sister knew and said nothing. My dad showed up looking like a man carrying a decade of guilt. And in 2 hours, 40 people were going to walk into Maple Grove Community Hall for my baby shower, including the woman who thinks I don't deserve any of it. If your mom has ever made you feel like the wrong daughter, type "I know" in the comments. Now let me tell you what happened at that shower. The first 30 minutes were perfect. Dangerously perfect. Guests trickled in. Joanne manned the door like a 5-star hostess, directing people to the name board, the cupcake table, the mimosa bar. Music played softly. Acoustic covers of old pop songs, the kind that made everything feel warm and safe. Linda arrived first from Marcus's side. She wrapped me in a hug that smelled like lavender and said, "You're glowing, honey." Gerald lingered near the back, holding a cup of punch like a man at a party where he didn't know anyone, even though he knew almost everyone. Then Donna walked in. She was dressed beautifully, cream blouse, tailored slacks, gold earrings. She smiled at Joanne, complimented the decorations, and handed me a gift bag. Inside, a soft yellow baby blanket with Eleanor's initials embroidered on the corner. "It's lovely," I said, and I meant it. Aunt Ruth followed close behind, positioning herself at Donna's table like a Secret Service agent in reading glasses. Megan arrived 10 minutes later, jet-lagged and puffy-eyed from the red-eye, but she hugged me and said, "The hall looks great, Bailey." Games started. Guess the baby weight. Baby name bingo. Joanne worked the microphone with the energy of a game show host. People laughed. Donna laughed too, politely, appropriately, and even complimented the cupcakes. "These are adorable." Joanne caught my eye across the room and gave me a wink. "See? Fine." Then Linda leaned over to Donna at the refreshment table, casual, friendly. "So, did they pick a name yet?" "Yes," Linda said, beaming. "They're naming her after Marcus's grandmother, Eleanor." I watched Donna's face from across the room. Her smile froze. 1 second, 2. Then it clicked back into place, smooth as a mask snapping shut. She reached for another mimosa. By mimosa number 3, Donna's volume went up 2 notches. It started small. Comments tossed like coins into a fountain, casual enough to splash but not enough to soak. She cornered Karen, my department head, near the gift table. "You work with my daughter? Bless your heart." She placed a hand over her chest. "She's always been the creative one in the family." Karen, who had managed a hospital floor for 15 years and could spot a passive-aggressive compliment from 3 zip codes away, smiled tightly and walked back to our table. She leaned toward my coworker, Dawn, and whispered something I couldn't hear. Dawn's eyebrows rose. Donna moved on. She told Marcus's cousin that Bailey always needed help with everything, even tying her shoes, if you can believe it. She told Joanne the cupcakes were cute for this kind of thing. She told my college friend Priya that I'd been a difficult child, but we love her anyway. Each comment was a paper cut, individually survivable. Collectively, they were bleeding out the room. Aunt Ruth grabbed Donna's wrist. "Donna, slow down." "I'm fine, Ruth," she pulled free. "Stop mothering me." I crossed the room, kept my voice low. "Mom, you've had enough to drink. Please sit down." Donna looked at me the way she always looked at me, like I was a smudge on glass she couldn't quite wipe clean. "Don't tell me what to do at a party, Bailey." I stepped back. Marcus was watching from the far wall, arms crossed, jaw working. I walked over and put my hand on his forearm. "I see her. Let me handle it." He exhaled, nodded. But Donna wasn't looking at me anymore. She was looking at the microphone on Joanne's table. Her eyes stayed there a beat too long, and I felt the room shift. Joanne had just finished the last round of baby bingo and was about to announce the gift opening portion when Donna stood up. She moved fast for someone 3 mimosas in, crossed the room in 5 steps, picked up the microphone from the table, and tapped it twice. The thump echoed through the speakers. "Can I say something?" she said, voice honeyed and loud. "As Bailey's mother?" Joanne looked at me. I looked at Donna. I nodded, because I still believed in that stupid final second that she might say something kind. "I want everyone here to know that I love both my daughters," Donna began. She paused, scanning the room the way a preacher scans a congregation. "But a mother knows her children, and I have to be honest. I worry about this baby." The room stiffened. Cupcake forks froze mid-air. "Bailey has always needed someone to take care of her," Donna continued. "And Marcus is a wonderful man." She gestured toward him. "I just hope he made this choice on his own, and not because he felt obligated." Gasps. Actual, audible gasps. Dawn dropped her napkin. Karen's mouth opened and closed. A woman from Marcus's family put her hand over her mouth. Donna wasn't finished. "I'm not saying she planned it. I'm just saying the timing is very convenient. Some women get pregnant to keep a man." She shrugged. "I'm just saying what everyone's thinking." Nobody was thinking that. The room was silent the way a room goes silent before a verdict. Linda stood up from her chair. "Excuse me?" "Aunt Ruth." "Donna, stop!" Donna held the mic tighter. "I'm her mother. If I can't say this, who can?" I couldn't move. My hands were on my belly, and my daughter was kicking, and my mother was telling 40 people I was a trap. Then Marcus stood up, slowly, phone in his hand. "Actually, Donna," he said, "since we're being honest." Marcus didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. Every person in that room was already silent. "Donna, you just told this room that Bailey might have trapped me." He held up his phone, screen facing out. "So I think this room deserves to know what you've been telling me." He swiped, read the first message aloud, date stamped 2 months ago. "Marcus, you're a smart man. You don't have to stay. There are other women out there." Donna's face went white. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. Marcus swiped again. "Bailey has always been needy. She'll drain you. Get out while you can." The room didn't gasp this time. It was worse than that. It was the sound of 40 people holding their breath at once. Donna took a step back. That's That's taken out of context. There's no context that makes this okay, Marcus said. Same volume, same tone, like he was reading a weather report that happened to contain a hurricane. He swiped one more time. My ex-husband was stuck because of Bailey. Don't let her do the same to you. Gerald, sitting 3 tables away, went rigid. His face drained of color so fast I thought he might faint. He gripped the edge of the table. His knuckles turned white. That text. Stuck because of Bailey. Gerald heard it for the first time in this room. His ex-wife had told a stranger that their youngest child was the reason their marriage failed. And she said it in a text message, the way you'd warn someone about a bad restaurant. Marcus lowered the phone, looked directly at Donna. I saved every message, because I knew if I told anyone, you'd deny it. He paused. And here you are, denying it. Donna's hand trembled around the microphone she was still holding. The mic picked up the shake, a faint rhythmic tapping through the speakers. Donna did what Donna always did when cornered. She cried. Tears appeared fast, practiced fast, performance fast. She pressed a hand to her chest, let her shoulders shake, and turned toward the room like a woman wrongfully accused. This is what they do, she said, voice cracking. They turn my own family against me. She spun toward Aunt Ruth. Ruth, you see this? My own son-in-law is attacking me at a baby shower. Ruth sat perfectly still. Her reading glasses sat low on her nose. Her hands were folded on the table. She said nothing. It was the first time in 60 years that Ruth didn't rush in to cover for her sister. Donna pivoted to Megan. Megan, sweetheart, tell them I'm a good mother. Megan's eyes were red and wet. She stared at the table. Her fingers twisted a napkin into a tight spiral. She didn't speak. Donna turned to Gerald, last resort, the man she'd spent a decade training to agree. Gerald, say something. Gerald looked up. His eyes were hollow. His voice came out low and rough, like a door opening for the first time in years. Donna, he said, I think you've said enough. 6 words. The most Gerald Whitfield had said against his ex-wife in a decade. The room murmured, chairs scraped. A few of my co-workers reached for their bags. Karen placed a hand on Dawn's shoulder and nodded toward the door. Donna's voice pitched higher. You're all against me, all of you. I gave 30 years to this family. Joanne stepped forward, calm, measured. She held out her hand for the microphone. Ma'am, Joanne said, this is Bailey's baby shower, not your intervention. She waited. Please sit down or leave. Donna stared at Joanne's outstretched hand. The room watched. She didn't surrender the mic. She set it on the table, hard, and the thud cracked through the speakers like a gavel. Megan stood up. Every head in the room turned toward her. I held my breath. Some part of me, the little sister part, the part that still remembered sharing a bedroom and whispering after lights out, thought, she's going to say something. She's going to stand up for me. This isn't the time or place, Megan started. Megan! I cut her off. My voice was steady. Did you know about the texts? The room waited. Donna sniffled loudly from her corner. Ruth didn't move. Megan looked at Donna, looked at me, looked at the floor. Mom said she was just worried about you. She told my husband to leave me. I stepped closer. And you knew. And you called me last week and told me I was being hurtful for not inviting her. Megan's face crumpled. I didn't think it was that serious. That's the problem, Megan. My voice didn't rise. I didn't need it to. You never think it's that serious. When it happens to me. The napkin in Megan's hand was shredded. She wiped her eyes with the back of her wrist. Her mouth worked around words that wouldn't come. I can't do this, she said. She picked up her bag, walked past me, past Donna, past 40 people who were all watching the Whitfield family come apart at the seams. The door closed behind her. Through the window, I saw Travis waiting in a rental car, engine running. Megan got in. They pulled away. I stood there. 7 months pregnant, standing in a community hall decorated with yellow tablecloths and a banner that said, "Welcome, baby Eleanor," watching my sister leave. I didn't chase her. There was nothing left to chase. I turned back to the room. 38 people stared at me. I straightened my shoulders. I had 38 witnesses, and the shower wasn't over. Donna had folded herself into a chair in the far corner, crying into a napkin while Ruth sat beside her, speaking in a low, sharp voice I couldn't hear. The room had thinned. A few guests quietly excused themselves, coats gathered, sympathetic glances thrown my way. Then Gerald walked toward me. He moved slowly, like a man carrying something too heavy to set down and too fragile to hold. His eyes were red. His hands shook. "I should have stopped this years ago," he said. "Yes," I said. "You should have." He flinched, but he didn't argue. "She told Marcus you were the reason our marriage failed." His voice broke on the word failed. He pressed his fingers to his mouth, collected himself. "Bailey, you were 5 years old when things went wrong. It was never you. It was never about you." The tears came then. Not the dramatic, room-commanding kind Donna had just performed. These were quiet. They slid down his face and caught in the stubble on his jaw. 58 years old, standing in a community hall in front of people he'd known for decades, crying because 20 years of silence had finally crushed him. Linda, Marcus's mother, crossed the room. She put a hand on Gerald's shoulder and offered him a tissue. "Sir," she said gently, "you're here now. That matters." Gerald took the tissue, pressed it to his eyes, nodded. I hugged my father. Arms around him, belly between us, my daughter shifting inside me, as if she could feel the weight of the moment too. He whispered into my hair, "I let her rewrite our whole story, and you paid the price." I held him tighter. I didn't say it's okay. It wasn't okay. But he was here, and for the first time in my life, it was just us, without Donna standing between. The crowd had thinned to about 20, coworkers who stayed, Linda's family, a few friends who weren't leaving until they knew I was all right. Ruth stood up from Donna's corner table. She smoothed her blouse, adjusted her glasses, and then she spoke. Not to Bailey, not to the room, but directly to Donna, loud enough that everyone still present could hear. "Donna, I asked Bailey to invite you. I vouched for you." Ruth's voice was the voice of a retired principal addressing a student who'd set the bathroom on fire. "And this is what you do." Donna wiped her face. "Ruth, you don't understand the whole story. I just heard the whole story, from your son-in-law's phone." Donna's chin lifted, defense mode. He twisted my words. "Did you also tell Marcus about the affair?" Ruth said. The room went dead. "Did you tell him why Gerald really left? Or did you leave that part out?" Donna's face changed. The tears dried up. Her jaw clamped shut. "Because I remember, Donna." Ruth stepped closer. "I remember driving you to that man's apartment while Gerald was at work. I remember lying for you, to your husband, to our parents, to your daughters." Donna stood. "That's ancient history, Ruth." "Then stop using ancient history to hurt your daughter." Ruth didn't flinch. "You cheated. Gerald left. And instead of owning that, you turned Bailey into your excuse for 20 years. Donna grabbed her purse. Her hands were shaking, not from tears this time, but from something rawer. She looked at me. I didn't look away. She scanned the room one last time, 20 faces staring back, not one of them sympathetic. Donna walked to the door. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't say sorry. The door swung shut behind her, and the afternoon light cut across the floor where she'd been standing. Ruth sat back down, exhaled, looked at me. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. I should have known better." The room was quieter now, smaller, the kind of quiet that happens after a thunderstorm passes, and you step outside to check the damage. I stood in the middle of Maple Grove Community Hall, 7 months pregnant, surrounded by cupcakes and scattered napkins and a banner that still read, "Welcome, baby Eleanor." 20 people remained. The ones who stayed. I'm sorry you all had to see that, I said. Linda shook her head. Don't apologize for someone else's behavior. Karen, still in her chair, arms crossed like a woman who'd seen worse in the ER, said, Bailey, we've known you for 5 years. Nobody in this room believes a word that woman said. Dawn nodded. Priya wiped her eyes and gave me a thumbs up. Marcus's cousin raised her punch cup like a tiny toast. Something loosened in my chest. I didn't realize how tight I'd been holding myself until it released. So, I said, and my voice cracked just slightly before I caught it. Are we going to open these presents or what? Laughter. Soft, relieved, genuine laughter. The kind that heals a room. Joanne moved first. She picked up the microphone from where Donna had slammed it, dusted it off dramatically, and said into it, Ladies and gentlemen, the gift portion of this shower will now commence, and I will be the only one using this mic for the remainder of the afternoon. More laughter. She pressed play on the speaker. Music filled the room again. Marcus appeared beside me. His hand found the small of my back. I leaned into him. Thank you, I whispered. You don't need to thank me for telling the truth, he said. Gerald sat at a table in the back, still there. First time he'd stayed at one of my events without Donna beside him. He caught my eye and gave me a small nod. I opened the first present. That night, I sat on the couch with my feet in a warm basin of water while Marcus made chamomile tea in the kitchen. The house was quiet. Eleanor's nursery was half finished down the hall, crib assembled, walls painted sage green, the rocking chair still wrapped in plastic. Marcus brought the tea, sat beside me. We didn't speak for a long time. How many texts total? I finally asked. 47. Over 4 months. 47. I held the mug with both hands. The heat seeped into my palms. I told you about the first one, Marcus said. You said you'd handle it. I respected that, but I wasn't going to delete them. Why didn't you show me all of them earlier? He looked at me, steady, the way he always looked at me when the answer mattered. Because I knew you'd blame yourself, and I didn't want you carrying that while you were carrying her. He nodded toward my belly. I set the tea down, pressed my hands over my eyes, and then I cried. Not the way I'd cried at Megan's gender reveal, small, quiet, private. This was heavier, deeper, the kind of crying that empties you out because it's been waiting months for permission. I wasn't crying because of Donna. I was crying because Marcus had done something no one in my family had ever done. He protected me without asking for credit. When the tears slowed, Marcus handed me a tissue. What do you want to do? He asked. I wiped my face, looked at the nursery door down the hall, thought about Eleanor, about what kind of house she'd grow up in, about what kind of mother she'd see. I want to close the door, I said. For real this time. Marcus nodded. Then we close it. Megan hadn't called. Marcus said, Give it time. No, I said. I've given enough time. In a town of 12,000 people, news travels on legs. Within 48 hours, every version of what happened at my baby shower had circulated through Coopersville like a chain email. The church ladies heard it from Ruth. The hospital staff heard it from Karen. The neighbors heard it from whoever parks next to the community hall on Saturdays. 40 guests meant 40 storytellers. Each version had its own emphasis. Some focused on the texts, some on Gerald's tears, some on Donna grabbing the microphone, but the core was always the same. Donna Whitfield stood up at her own daughter's baby shower and accused her of trapping her husband. And then her son-in-law proved she'd been trying to destroy the marriage from the inside. Donna posted on Facebook 2 days later. The status read, When your children betray you and let outsiders humiliate you at a family event, a mother's heart breaks. 3 likes, 0 comments. Joanne sent me a screenshot. I looked at it for 5 seconds, then blocked Donna on everything. Phone, email, social media. Every channel, closed. Megan called from Germany. Mom is a wreck. She says Marcus set her up. Marcus read her own words, I said. She set herself up. What do you want me to do? I want you to ask yourself why you never asked me what I wanted. The line went quiet. Megan said goodbye. I said goodbye. We hung up. 3 days later, an email arrived from Donna. Subject line, "You owe me an apology." I opened it, read the first line, "After everything I've sacrificed for you," and closed my laptop. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. In a small town, reputation is currency. And my mother had just filed for bankruptcy. 47 texts. That's how many messages my mother sent my husband telling him to leave me. And when I didn't respond to her Facebook post, she emailed me to say I owed her an apology. If you've ever received that kind of message from a parent, the kind where they hurt you and then demand you apologize, type "been there" in the comments. We're almost at the part where I made my final decision. The one I'll never undo. And honestly, the one I wish I'd made years ago. 1 week after the shower, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open to a blank email. Marcus was at work. The house was quiet. Eleanor kicked twice, hard, like she was reminding me she was listening. I typed for an hour, deleted most of it, typed again. The final version was short, clean. No anger, no accusations, no theatrics. Just the truth, laid flat. Mom, I'm not writing this to hurt you. I'm writing this to protect myself and my daughter. You texted my husband 47 times over 4 months, telling him to leave me. You told a room full of people I trapped him with a pregnancy. You told Gerald, and apparently anyone who would listen, that I was the reason your marriage fell apart. I was 5 years old when your marriage went wrong. I am closing this door. Not because I hate you, because I can't let my daughter grow up watching me shrink every time you walk into a room. If you ever genuinely want to change, I'll know. But I won't be the one checking. I read it aloud once. My voice stayed even. I hit send. Then I copied the email and forwarded it to Gerald and Aunt Ruth, not asking permission, just letting them know. Gerald's reply came within the hour. I understand. I love you. Ruth's came 20 minutes later. Brave girl, I'm sorry I pushed you to invite her. Marcus came home that evening. I showed him the email. He read it twice, looked up at me. It's honest, he said. Is it too much? It's not enough, he said quietly. But it's right. I closed the laptop, pressed my hands against my belly. Eleanor kicked again. I'd rather my daughter wonder why she doesn't see her grandmother than watch her grandmother teach her she's not enough. Donna received the email at 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. By 3:15, she'd called Ruth twice, Gerald 3 times, and driven to my house. Ruth told me later what Donna said on the phone. She can't do this to me. I am her mother. Ruth's response. I read the text Marcus showed Donna. You told that man his wife was worthless. What exactly did you expect? I was trying to protect him, Donna shouted. From what? Ruth said. From your own daughter? Gerald didn't answer any of her calls. His phone sat on his kitchen table, buzzing against the wood, while he sat in his recliner staring at the wall. He told me about it later. I watched it ring, he said. And for the first time, I just let it. At our house, the doorbell rang at 4:30. Marcus answered. I stayed in the living room, one hand on my belly, listening. Donna, Marcus said through the screen door. Bailey doesn't want to see you. Please leave. You turned her against me. Donna's voice was raw. I read her your texts. If that turned her against you, maybe look at what you wrote. Marcus, please. This door is closed, Donna, and it's not my door to open. I heard her crying on the porch. Through the window, I could see Mrs. Gallagher across the street pause her gardening and stare. The FedEx driver slowed his truck. Donna was making a scene on a residential street at 4:30 on a Tuesday, the mirror image of the baby shower. Another public audience. Another moment where she chose performance over accountability. She stopped crying, got in her car, backed out of the driveway. I watched the taillights disappear around the corner and felt something I hadn't expected. Nothing. No anger, no guilt, no sadness. just a long, steady exhale. Megan called me 4 days later. Her voice was different, not the defensive, careful tone I was used to. This time she sounded shaken. "I called Mom to check on her after your email," Megan said. "She was crying, and then she said something." I waited. "She said," Megan's voice hitched, "at least you gave me a real grandchild. Bailey's baby probably isn't even Marcus's." I closed my eyes, pressed my forehead against the cool glass of the kitchen window. "I hung up on her," Megan whispered. "First time in my life." I let the silence sit. Then, "Has she always been like this? About me?" "Yes." "Why didn't you tell me?" "I did, Megan. Multiple times. You just believed her more." I heard her breathing. Ragged, uneven, the way a person breathes when they're fighting back something that's been damned for years. "I'm so sorry," she said. "I know. I watched her do this to you for years and told myself it wasn't that bad. I was sitting in the front seat and I never once looked in the rearview mirror." "You're looking now," I said. Silence again. Then, "What do I do?" "That's your choice, Megan. I already made mine." We stayed on the phone for a while longer. Neither of us said much. But the quality of the quiet had changed. It wasn't the polite, careful silence of two sisters who'd learned to talk around their mother. It was the silence of two people sitting together in the rubble, deciding what to rebuild. "I'm not going to pretend everything's fine between us," I said. "I wouldn't ask you to. But I'm glad you called." "Me too." When I hung up, Marcus was leaning against the kitchen doorframe. "Progress?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "Slow, but real." 2 weeks later, Gerald called. Not the usual awkward 5-minute check-in. He asked a full question. "Can I take you and Marcus to lunch? Just the three of us." We met at Bertie's Diner on Main Street. Vinyl booths, bottomless coffee, a waitress named Pam who called everyone Hun. Gerald ordered a club sandwich and ate half of it. Progress. Over lunch, he talked more than I'd heard him talk in years. After the divorce, Donna had warned him, if he took Bailey's side, she'd tell the whole town he was a deadbeat father. Gerald, tired and beaten down from 10 years of marriage to a woman who rewrote reality on a weekly basis, chose the path of least resistance. "I chose peace over you," he said, setting down his coffee cup. "And that's not peace, that's cowardice." "I'm not going to pretend it didn't hurt, Dad. I'm not asking you to." I looked at him, the thinning hair, the tired eyes, the button-down shirt he'd probably ironed himself. He looked smaller than I remembered, not diminished, just human. "I want Eleanor to know her grandfather," I said. Gerald's eyes went glassy. He pressed his lips together and nodded. "I'd like that." He cleared his throat. "Eleanor, that's a beautiful name." Marcus lifted his coffee mug. "My grandmother would have loved Bailey." Gerald smiled. Small, tired, but real. The first genuine smile I'd seen on his face since I was a kid. Pam refilled our coffee. Gerald asked about the nursery. Marcus described the sage-green walls. I showed him photos on my phone. We talked about strollers and car seats and which brand of bottle warmer was worth the money. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a made-for-TV reconciliation. It was a Tuesday lunch at a diner with bad lighting and good pie. It was a start. Megan flew back to Germany 2 weeks ahead of schedule. She called me from the terminal at O'Hare, Gate B17, voice echoey against the ceiling. "I need distance," she said. "From Mom, from Coopersville, from all of it. Travis's base is the only place that feels far enough right now." "I understand. Do you hate me?" I thought about that longer than she probably expected. "No, I'm disappointed, but I don't hate you." The airport intercom crackled. A gate change announcement for a flight to Denver. "I watched her destroy you for years," Megan said, "and I told myself it wasn't that bad. Because if it was that bad, then I was the worst sister alive for doing nothing." "You weren't the worst," I said. "You were just the favorite, and that comes with its own kind of blindness." She made a sound, half laugh, half something else. "That's the most generous thing you've ever said to me," Don't get used to it. She laughed for real that time, brief but honest. I'll call, she said. Every week. I mean it. Only if you mean it. I do. We said goodbye. I set the phone on the counter and stared at it for a moment. Marcus looked up from the couch. How are you? I'm okay. For real this time. Good, he said, and went back to his book. Megan didn't leave the country because of me. She left because for the first time, she saw what I'd always seen, and she couldn't unsee it. The golden child had finally looked behind the curtain, and the view was ugly. She also cut off Donna, her own decision, on her own timeline. I found out through Ruth, not through Megan. She didn't announce it. She just did it. That told me more than any apology ever could. Donna's world didn't collapse in a single dramatic implosion. It deflated. Slowly, steadily, the way a tire with a nail in it loses air. You don't notice until you try to drive. Her church circle, a group of 6 women who had brunch every Sunday after service, fractured. 3 of them stopped showing up. Ruth told me one of them, Barb Henley, said she couldn't sit across from Donna knowing what she'd done at that poor girl's baby shower. The other 2 just started being busy. Donna's next-door neighbor, Mrs. Gallagher, the one who'd watched the porch scene, still waved when she saw Donna. But the waves got shorter. The conversations at the mailbox stopped. Ruth called Donna once a week. She didn't stop being her sister, but she drew a line. I love you, Donna, but I'm not going to be your echo chamber anymore. If you want to talk about the weather, I'm here. If you want me to agree that your daughters are the problem, I'm hanging up. Donna still posted on Facebook. Vague, self-pitying statuses about sacrifice and ingratitude. When you give everything to your children and they throw you away. Each one received fewer reactions than the last. I didn't check her social media. Joanne did, occasionally, and mentioned it offhand until I asked her to stop. I don't want her to suffer, I told Joanne one afternoon over coffee. I just want her to stop. Those are different things. Joanne stirred her latte. You know she won't. Probably not, but that's not my problem anymore. My mother didn't lose her family because we abandoned her. She lost us because she chose the version of us that lived in her head. The helpless daughter, the heroic mother, the ungrateful son-in-law, over the real people standing in front of her. And eventually, the real people stopped standing there. A week after Donna's porch visit, I finally opened the last of the baby shower gifts. A few boxes had gone untouched in the chaos, shoved into the trunk of Marcus's car and forgotten. I sat cross-legged on the nursery floor, surrounded by onesies and swaddle blankets and a stuffed elephant from Priya, and pulled out a small, unwrapped box with no gift tag. Inside, a pair of baby socks, pale yellow, hand-knitted. Tiny, impossibly tiny, the way baby things always are, like they were made for a doll. Tucked inside one of the socks was a folded note, written in a handwriting I recognized from decades of birthday cards. For Eleanor, love, Grandpa G. I sat there holding those socks for a long time. They weighed almost nothing. A few grams of yarn, a few rows of careful stitching, but they were heavy in the way that only handmade things are, heavy with time and effort, and the kind of love that doesn't know how to say itself out loud. Marcus found me on the nursery floor 20 minutes later. Your dad knits? He said, looking at the socks. I laughed. Apparently. I called Gerald that evening. Dad, did you knit these? A pause. Your grandmother taught me, back when I was a kid. Another pause. Don't tell anyone. They're beautiful. They're lopsided. Dad, they're beautiful. He was quiet. I heard him breathe. Then, thank you for letting me back in, Bailey. I know I don't deserve it. You showed up, I said. That's where it starts. I hung up and placed the socks in Eleanor's top dresser drawer, the one Marcus had lined with cedar paper. Right on top where they'd be the first thing I'd see every time I opened it. That pair of socks cost nothing, and it was the most valuable gift I received because it cost my father 30 years of silence to give it. Linda called on a Thursday evening. I was folding baby laundry, tiny shirts, tiny pants, a hat shaped like a strawberry that Joanne swore was essential. "I know things are hard right now," Linda said. "I want you to know something and I want you to hear it clearly. You have a family. It's us." I stopped folding, sat on the edge of the bed. "When Marcus first brought you home," she continued, "I watched you. You were polite and smart and funny, but you had this thing, this habit of checking people's faces before you laughed, like you needed permission to enjoy yourself." I didn't say anything. My throat was tight. I didn't know where it came from, not until the shower. Now I know. Linda's voice softened. "And I want you to know, in this family, you don't need permission for anything, least of all to be happy." "I'm sorry you had to see all that," I managed. "Don't apologize. I'm glad I was there, because now I know exactly how strong my daughter-in-law is." She paused. "Eleanor is going to have the best mother, because you already know what not to do." I pressed the phone against my ear and let those words sink in. They filled a space I'd been carrying empty for so long I'd forgotten it was there, the space where a mother's approval was supposed to live. Linda didn't replace Donna. That's not how it works. You don't swap one mother for another like trading in a car. But she filled a gap that Donna had carved out and left hollow, and she did it without being asked. "Thank you, Linda," I said. "Thank you for loving my son," she said, "and for letting us love you back." I went back to folding laundry. The strawberry hat looked ridiculous. I placed it on top of the pile and smiled. Family isn't always the people who made you. Sometimes it's the people who chose you. Eleanor Grace Hudson came into the world on a Tuesday morning at 7:14 a.m., weighing 7 pounds and 4 ounces, at Coopersville Regional Medical Center, the same hospital where I'd spent 5 years filing insurance claims and arguing with adjusters. The nurses on my floor were co-workers. Karen popped in during her break with a balloon that said, "It's a girl," even though everyone already knew. Dawn brought a blanket from the gift shop. Dr. Pham, who delivered Eleanor, told me afterward, "She's got strong lungs. She'll be fine." In the room, Marcus, holding my hands so tight his knuckles matched the sheets. Linda, quiet in the corner, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. Gerald standing near the window, hands clasped behind his back like a man at attention. Joanne arrived an hour later with coffee for everyone and a onesie that read, "My Aunt Joanne is cooler than yours." Gerald held Eleanor second, after Marcus. He cradled her with the careful, deliberate grip of a man who hadn't held a baby in 29 years. His chin trembled, his eyes filled. "She has your eyes, Bailey," he said. Megan FaceTimed from Ramstein. The connection was grainy, and there was a 2-second delay, and she kept tilting the camera too close to her face, but when she saw Eleanor, she pressed both hands to her mouth and cried. "She's perfect," Megan said. "She is," I agreed. Donna didn't call, didn't text, didn't send flowers. I didn't check. Marcus sat beside my bed that evening, Eleanor asleep on his chest. The room was dim. The monitors beeped softly. Gerald had gone home. Linda was in the cafeteria. "How do you feel?" Marcus asked. I looked at my daughter, at the tiny crescent of her closed eyes, at her fist curled around Marcus's index finger. Like everything I went through was worth it, because she'll never have to go through it. Gerald started coming over every Saturday. He never announced it or made a formal arrangement. The first week after we brought Eleanor home, he just showed up with 2 bags of groceries and a Phillips head screwdriver. "That nursery shelf is crooked," he said. "I noticed it at the shower." Marcus let him in. They spent an hour adjusting the shelf, testing its weight, arguing about whether drywall anchors were necessary. It was the most words I'd ever heard Gerald say to another man. The next Saturday, he arrived with more groceries, milk, bread, the specific brand of decaf coffee I'd mentioned once, In passing, 3 weeks earlier. He remembered. That detail staggered me more than any speech he could have given. The Saturdays became routine. Gerald and Marcus in the garage, tinkering with something. Gerald on the porch, reading the paper while Eleanor slept in the bassinet beside him. Gerald washing dishes after lunch without being asked. We didn't talk about Donna, not because it was off limits. There just wasn't anything new to say. She existed in a separate timeline now, one that ran parallel to ours but no longer intersected. One afternoon, I walked into the living room and found Gerald in the recliner with Eleanor on his chest, singing something low and out of tune. A lullaby, maybe. Something his mother used to sing. His eyes were closed. Eleanor's were closed too, both of them breathing in the same slow rhythm. I took a photo, sent it to Megan. She responded with a heart emoji and nothing else. It was enough. Gerald didn't try to make up for 30 years in one Saturday. He just kept showing up, week after week, quiet, steady, present. I missed this, he told me once, bouncing Eleanor gently on his knee. I missed being allowed to just be here. The letter arrived 3 months after Eleanor was born. Standard white envelope, no return address, but I recognized the handwriting immediately. The same looping cursive from birthday cards that always said "Love Mom" above a $20 bill and below a comment about my weight. Marcus saw me standing at the mailbox, holding the envelope. He walked down the driveway in his socks. From her? Yeah. Do you want to open it? I turned the envelope over in my hands. It was light. 1 page, maybe 2. The paper was smooth. Donna had used her good stationery, the cream-colored kind with her initials embossed at the top, the set she saved for thank you notes to people she wanted to impress. No, I said. Do you want to throw it away? I thought about that. No. I brought it inside, opened the hall closet, placed it on the top shelf, behind a box of winter hats and a photo album from college. If Eleanor ever asks about her grandmother, I said, I'll let her read it, when she's old enough to understand. Marcus nodded. That's fair. I closed the closet door, stood there for a moment, hand on the knob. Somewhere inside that envelope was either an apology or an accusation. Possibly both. With Donna, the two were often indistinguishable. It didn't matter. For 29 years, I'd orbited my mother like a satellite. Always adjusting, always correcting course, always pulled toward a gravity that only shrank me. The letter was Donna trying to pull me back into orbit. And for the first time, I felt nothing. No tug, no guilt, no curiosity strong enough to overcome the peace I'd built in its absence. Maybe someday I'll open it. Maybe Eleanor will. Maybe nobody ever will. And it'll sit in that closet until the paper yellows and the ink fades. I don't need to read her words to know my worth. Megan called every Wednesday. She kept her word. The first few calls were short, careful. We talked about weather in Ramstein and whether Eleanor had started smiling yet. Surface conversations with deep undercurrents. Then, about 6 weeks in, Megan said something that changed the tone. I started therapy here. The base has a counselor, military family support program. Good, I said. She asked me about our childhood. I talked for an hour straight. She barely got a word in. Megan laughed, but there was no humor in it. I always thought being the favorite meant I was loved more. Turns out it just meant I was useful. I let that sit. Mom didn't love me more, Bailey. She just needed me more. For the image, for the audience. I was her proof that she was a good mother. Megan's voice dropped. And the cost of being proof was never being allowed to be honest. That's not easy to realize. No, it's not. The calls got longer after that. We talked about things we'd never talked about before. The way Donna used to compare our bodies at the dinner table. The way she'd cry to get her way and then stop the instant the door closed. The way she'd whisper to Megan about Bailey and whisper to Bailey about Megan, keeping both daughters just close enough to need her and just far enough apart to never compare notes. "I want to be a real sister," Megan said one Wednesday, her voice thick. "Not mom's messenger. Not the golden child. Just your sister." "Then be that," I said, "and I'll be yours." We weren't healed. Healing doesn't happen on a phone call or a Wednesday schedule, but we were talking, honestly, without Donna's voice in the middle, rewriting every sentence before it landed. That was enough for now. The nursery is finished now. Sage green walls, white crib. The rocking chair, finally unwrapped, sits by the window where the afternoon light comes in warm and gold. The shelf Gerald fixed is straight. The dresser has cedar-lined drawers, and on the door, a small wooden sign, hand-painted by Joanne. Eleanor. I stand in the doorway most evenings after putting her down. Marcus finds me there, leaning against the frame, watching her sleep. "You okay?" he asks. "Yeah. I'm just thinking about how she'll never wonder if she's enough. Because she has you. Because she has us." I grew up in a house where love had conditions, where being the other daughter meant always being second, where my mother told my husband to leave me and then accused me of manipulation, where my sister watched it happen and called it normal, where my father sat in the next room and chose silence over his own child. I could have let that make me bitter. I could have spent my life keeping score, tallying every slight, replaying every slight in the dark like a film reel with no ending. I didn't. I became a mother who will never, ever look at her child and say, "I hope this one doesn't turn out like her." My name is Bailey Hudson. I'm 29 years old. I'm a healthcare administrator, a wife, a daughter who chose herself, and, as of 12 weeks ago, a mom. Eleanor is asleep in her crib. Marcus is reading in the living room. Gerald is coming over Saturday. Megan calls on Wednesdays. Donna's letter sits unopened in the closet, and the wooden sign on the nursery door catches the hallway light every time I turn the corner. If you're listening to this and you're still sitting at that table waiting for someone to see you, I want you to know you can leave the table. The right people will set a new one. You deserve a plate that's already set. That's my story. If it made you feel something, if you've been the other daughter, or the one who had to close a door you didn't want to close, I want to hear from you. Type 1 in the comments if you've set a boundary with family. Type 2 if you're still working up the courage. And if this story gave you even a little bit of permission to choose yourself, hit subscribe. There are more stories like mine in the description below. I'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourself.